afternoon. Again, thank everybody so much for coming. My name is Megan Eimer, and I'm the Policy Director here at CAIR-Florida. CAIR-Florida is the Florida chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, the largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization across the United States. And we are here today because the fundamental rights guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, equal protection, due process, and freedom from government discrimination are being violated. Today, CAIR-Florida announces the filing of its lawsuit against Governor DeSantis, challenging his blatantly unlawful, discriminatory and harmful, not only to Muslims, but to all Floridians, his executive order. This lawsuit is about holding Governor Ron DeSantis accountable for his actions that violate the U.S. Constitution, endanger the civil liberties of every single American, and harm Florida communities by using the power of government to not only discriminate, but to silence us. No governor and no individual is above the U.S. Constitution or above the law of the land. This case is not just about us, but it's about every single Floridian and every Floridian organization being politically targeted for who they are and what they believe. When the government targets one community, it targets the rights of all. So first, you will hear from Hiba Rahim, our acting executive director, followed by Omar Saleh, CAIR-Florida's managing attorney. So after our remarks, we will open up the floor for questions from the press. But do know that we take this step because justice and democracy demands it. So thank you for being here. And I now pass the floor on to our acting executive director, Hiba Rahim.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Yesterday, CAIR-Florida took legal action because Governor Ron DeSantis issued an executive order that defames America's largest Muslim civil rights organization. This executive order does not present facts, it does not cite investigations, it does not point to any criminal findings. It simply declares guilt by proclamation. It does not matter whether you agree or disagree with our policies or our advocacy. What should concern every American is the implication of allowing a government official to apply criminal designations without due process. This is not how things work in America. In this country, allegations come with evidence, and evidence is tested in court. And it is judges, not politicians, who decide what is lawful. That, I remind our governor, is the rule of law in America. As patriotic Americans, we cannot accept for law and order to be erased, regardless of which group it's against. Because if you know anything about history, you know that once a dirty tactic is played against one group, if people don't stand up, it's not long before another group is targeted. Governor DeSantis has turned the American rule of law upside down. He issued the accusation and the punishment and skipped the courts entirely. Let me remind you that history has seen this playbook before. In the 1950s and 60s, Southern governors accused the NAACP of being subversive and dangerous because it challenged segregation. States tried to ban the NAACP, they tried to defund it and criminalize those who supported it. It's exactly what's happening to CAIR-Florida today. And ultimately, at that time, the Supreme Court rejected those smears and the NAACP prevailed. Not just organizations, but even individuals, strong advocates for justice, were directly attacked. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was labeled an extremist, a threat, and a criminal by those in power. The FBI surveilled him, they harassed him, they tried to silence him, not because he was violent, but because he was effective. Nelson Mandela and the African National Congress were branded terrorists for opposing apartheid, and Mandela himself remained on a U.S. terror watch list until 2008. Today, we don't wonder who was right and who was wrong, but some of us today wonder whether they stood on the right side of history when these injustices were happening. Today, Governor DeSantis is attempting the same thing. He is using his position to exercise a power he does not possess, to smear a civil rights organization because it speaks inconvenient truths and because it defends constitutional rights that he is trying to suppress. For over 3 decades, CAIR has existed. We have dozens of attorneys. We have 25 chapters nationwide. We have won a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court victory protecting the rights of all Americans, and we have defended free speech, religious liberty, and due process for people of all faiths across Florida and across these great United States. And yet, without evidence and without authority and without due process, Governor DeSantis is attempting to declare us criminals and punish anyone who associates with us. This lawsuit is not just about CAIR. It's about whether any governor can act like a king. It's about whether dissent can be criminalized. And it's about whether civil rights organizations can exist without threat of political retaliation. History also tells us how this ends. The Constitution prevails and justice wins, and we are confident that the courts will once again affirm that you do not defeat civil rights by defaming those who defend them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. My name is Omar Saleh. It's O-M-A-R-S-A-L-E-H. I'm an attorney at CAIR-Florida, at the South Florida branch. I first want to thank really the amazing team that we have with CAIR. From the CAIR Foundation, we have Muslim Legal Fund of America, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and Akil and Valentine. Everyone is here, and these team of attorneys are not here for CAIR, they're here for the Constitution. I've said this last week, and I think I should say it again, is that if it walks like a lame duck and it talks like a lame duck, it's a lame duck. Ron DeSantis in his final moments in office, instead of focusing on the pressing issues affecting Floridians like housing and affordability, chooses to leave a legacy filled with hate and filled with divisiveness. That's what he chooses to do. When you read the executive order, you think whoever wrote this must not be a lawyer, they must not be a Floridian, and they must be a divider. And if the governor wants to take authorship of this executive order, then we'd say he's all three, but it doesn't have to be like that. He chooses to be like that. The problem is that Governor DeSantis doesn't listen to the entire Florida community, namely Muslims. He doesn't want to hear us. You can ask him himself whether he's visited a mosque or what he thinks about Muslims. He can't tell you, other than to spew hateful remarks that lead to the assaults that we deal with on a daily basis in this office. He doesn't realize it. And so that's why we're here today. That's one of the reasons. And it's also one of the reasons why I'm so proud to be here. After 10 years working on these type of cases, this case is what it boils down to. Somebody trying to stop the work that we're doing. That means it's effective. Governor DeSantis mocked our intention to file this lawsuit, saying that it would lead to opportunity for discovery. And we don't think that's how a lawyer takes things seriously, and that's why we had to file this. The order instructs state agencies to condition government benefits on whether somebody has supported CAIR by penalizing association. We have a First Amendment for that. It also penalizes us for our viewpoint. We have a First Amendment for that. The power to designate a foreign terrorist organization rests solely within the Secretary of State. It's not the governor's power. We have a supremacy clause for that. And you can't create a legal classification on somebody without giving them notice or opportunity to be heard or address it. We have a 14th Amendment for that. And that's why I said it so many times. We're not here for Muslim rights. We're here for constitutional rights. And that's why we have an awesome team behind us. More concerningly, this order instructs FDLE and the Florida Highway Patrol to take all lawful measures to prevent unlawful activity. And I thought we had laws in place already to prevent unlawful activity. But Governor DeSantis wants to add additional penalties just in case you're Muslim or if you support a Muslim group. And it doesn't work that way in this country. We're in the United States, and we have laws protecting these sorts of executive orders. The executive order is retaliatory and detrimental to the legal work that we do. And that's why he's doing it. And that's why we're here today. So if you haven't read the lawsuit, we're seeking declaratory and injunctive relief to block these attempts by the governor to squelch our speech, viewpoint, the work that we do, and affecting anyone who supports our work. I'm going to open the floor to questions. Thank you very much for coming here.
Hi, Mitch Perry, Fort Phoenix. You mentioned how DeSantis says, basically, CAIR, sue us, bring it on, it'll open up to discovery. What do you think that he thinks he's going to find in discovery?
I'm wondering what he's thinking he's going to find. We've been doing this for 20, 30 years. I think he would have found something already. We've been doing this for so long. And people, float these, what he says in his press conferences about these loose conspiracy theories associating us with terrorists. We've been doing this work for decades. And I think if there were something going on, we'd have heard about it a long time ago. So what's this about? We know what it's about. When somebody doesn't have much long in office, maybe trying to make an impact with his base, and we know who his base is. You look at somebody like Crystal Wildy, the Cinnabon employee who went off on a group of Somalis because they were black. These are the type of people who he's pandering to. Because when Governor DeSantis issues this executive order, it just doesn't flow through the air. We get several calls, not just from community members, but from haters, telling us that we're criminals, and a lot of other expletives that you don't want to hear, but he's riling these people up. Maybe he does understand that's what he's doing, and that's what makes it even more disappointing. It's just disappointing coming from a lawmaker. We see it all the time with random people, but we don't expect it from somebody who's supposed to represent all of the Floridians in his state, estimated 500,000 Muslims. What does he have to say about them? Ask him. You won't hear much.
Over the last week, can you elaborate on if CAIR has seen any impacts from this executive order and the work, impacting the work that you do?
Well, I want to first, leave this open to also our executive director, Hiba. I'm in the South Florida office every day, including this morning. I get calls from our supporters saying, what should we do? And I very confidently tell them not to worry, because we've already filed a lawsuit to block this. You have a constitutional right to advocate politically. It's well ingrained in our First Amendment. So it's not hard to articulate, but unfortunately, we have to take these steps to get a court order.
But in the lawsuit, you mentioned that you were about to start a podcast this month. However, the contract for that production company was pulled. So what else have you seen? Like, for instance, is the lease in jeopardy for this building? What have you seen as a result of that EO?
So there's, and again, Sir, if you want to chime in, but CAIR-Florida, we don't have direct state contracts, and our lease is not affected by this. There's also CAIR, which is the CAIR Foundation. That's a separate entity. I have Tanya Clevenger, she's actually the COO of CAIR, and she, if you want to add into that. But what our greater concern is the backlash from the community, not just these. We're not afraid of somebody seeing what we do or try to stop contracts, of which we don't have that in Florida.
Yeah, I can.
Sure.
Forgive me, guys, I'm losing my voice. My name's Tanya Diaz Clevenger, THANIA-CLEVENGER. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for our national headquarters. You asked about the podcast. So what we're seeing already is what the intent of this executive order was for, right? The intent of this executive order is to cause a chilling effect, right? Whenever we saw this in history, its initial impact is to tell people to stop. Stop fighting for your rights. Stop advocating. Stop standing on the right side of history. So the podcast is one example. I do not have the liberty yet to discuss other impacts that we're seeing, but that chilling effect is happening. And what we're asking people to do is stand tall, right? Don't let the chilling effect of an unconstitutional order stop you from being who you are, stop you from representing yourself in different places. But we are getting questions for people, contractors who are wondering, is the mere fact that we do business with CAIR, that we support CAIR, somehow implicate us because of this executive order. And firmly, again, with our lawsuit, with what we're going to do PR-wise, no, it will not stop us. It didn't stop history, and it's not going to stop us now.
And there is movement in Texas as well, because Texas has done the same thing just about a month before Florida, when Texas also said that CAIR is a foreign terrorist organization. Then there's movement nationally right now with the Texas Senator, John Cornyn, who is proposing legislation to take away the tax-exempt status for CAIR nationally. What are you doing to fight back, not only in Florida, but in Texas and nationally?
We have due process rights. So if the Department of Treasury or an agency wants to look into a 501c status, there's a process to do so, and that's what we'd expect, not through a governor's order.
Can I also pick up on that? CAIR has been, as you guys mentioned, been around for decades. But this is all happening the last month or two, right? Texas, Florida, and John Cornyn, what he's trying to do, you asked yesterday. Why do you think this is happening right now?
This has been happening much longer than a month ago, but it's picking up a lot more because officers are being a lot more brazen. Public officials are being more brazen in showing what their true thoughts are about Islam and Muslims. They're teaming up. When Texas happened, we knew Florida would be coming because we know that's what the governor's sentiment is. And we know there's other states as well. So this is, again, attempts at people coming together on the wrong side of history, and history has shown us where those cards land. Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead? So I will add again, Omar kind of said this isn't new for CAIR, right? The impact against the community has been growing steadily since October 7th with the Palestinian movement. Our work has been effective, right? We have sued governors across the country who are Israeli first, right? And so that action has brought more scrutiny to CAIR. Again, what you asked of what we're doing legally, we're going to continue to be a legal organization who follows all U.S. laws, all state laws. There's nothing new for us to do on that front. And like to Omar's point, let them file something if there's something to be found. The fact that we've been operating lawfully registered as a 501c3 in 20 plus states speaks to who we are. The recent attacks, and again, not new, but the recent attacks have been because of our political advocacy on Palestinian issues, where we will not let students' voices be silenced. We will not allow people to be incarcerated without constitutional rights. And so yes, as we continue to fight those issues, we will be a bigger thorn in their side, and we will continue to fight, and they'll target us.
And when I read the lawsuit, I didn't see the word retaliation in there, but because CAIR has represented like SJP chapters and has defended people who have spoken out for Palestinian people and against Israel, do you feel that this law, this EO is, I guess, retaliatory for what you guys have done?
It is retaliatory. This isn't the first time we've sued the governor for trying to squelch speech. We did it 2 years ago when he tried to shut down students in Palestine at the University of South Florida. But to note, he actually made this part of his debate. He made it part of riling up his base in his debate. And SJP at USF still stands today. So whatever he said had no effect. We don't think this executive order has any effect, but we have to take it to the courts.
Any other questions? I'll just close out.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. One thing I will add, there were some questions regarding what we've seen at CAIR-Florida, whether this has impacted contracts, and just in general, whether or not this is a concerted effort. We are not at liberty to talk about which specific institutions have reached out to us, but we do have contracts and agreements with institutions like who send people over to us. Sometimes that could be internships, and multiple people have said that they are reviewing with legal counsel how they can navigate these decades-old relationships. And so, yes, what we're finding is that people are pausing and questioning, but I am very, very pleased to report that in almost every single case so far, we have seen an incredible support from the community, where they've taken the decision to continue their relationships with CAIR-Florida, to continue the working relationships that we have, because they understand what this is about. The American people are wise enough to read, to remember, and to reflect on what is happening and what has happened in the past. And so I will say that this is reflective. This is one of the bigger attacks on our institution. We've never seen anything like this before. And as a result, we are seeing civil rights giants who are standing with us. We are seeing civil rights giants who are issuing statements in support for us. We are seeing the Southern Poverty Law Center who has joined the lawsuit for us. So that's what happens when the community is under attack in such an aggressive way. We call on the community and our supporters to stand up taller, firmer, and stronger with us. And that way we'll defeat this and make sure that does not happen, not to the Muslim community in the future, and not to any other marginalized group. We're around for any questions if you have any. Thank you for coming today.